You're listening to the Travel to Bosnia and Herzegovina podcast.
Welcome to the Travel to Bosnia and Herzegovina podcast, the podcast that takes you on a journey through one of Europe's most underrated countries. I'm David.
I'm Tamara, and we are excited to take you on a journey to this beautiful, heart-shaped country located in the middle of the Western Balkans.
Our goal is to introduce you to the fantastic nature, stunning architecture, amazing food, welcoming culture, and complex but interesting history of this much misunderstood country.
Through our podcast episodes, we'll be sharing insider tips on where you should go, what you should see, do, and eat when you get here.
Whether you're planning a trip or just curious about this hidden gem, we've got you covered.
So join us as we explore the beauty and wonder of Bosnia and Herzegovina, one episode at a time. You're listening to the Travel to Bosnia and Herzegovina podcast.
Welcome to the third episode of the Travel to Bosnia and Herzegovina podcast, the podcast that takes you on a journey through one of Europe's most underrated countries. And today, we're going to take our first look at exploring the country, and we're starting with our local city of Banja Luka. Now, before we go any further, we won't be drenching you with facts and figures in this series of podcasts, as Tam and I are both very sure that you'll be doing your own online research before you get here. So rather, we're going to give you anecdotes and little-known legends and stories, at times, that will add some icing to the cake. We're pretty passionate, aren't we, about slow touring, so we like to do things in a super relaxed way.
Yes, that's the only way to explore. That's the best way to explore. Sorry. So if you want to have a holiday and come to visit Bosnia and Herzegovina, you can come to us and we can show you Banja Luka and surrounding area. And we'll do it in a slow manner, like in a slow way, where you can just relax at our accommodation and just we can plan one day at a time.
We had some friends from Sarajevo with us not so long ago, and they're in the tourist business, and they were saying that more and more people are looking to stay outside of cities, to stay in villages, to stay with families. And in a way, it could be, I don't know, but it could be that the day of staying in hotels is not like it used to be.
I think in today's world, staying in hotel is more maybe for the business people, more like, you know, like, and the people who wants to have a holiday, like when we go on holiday, we go to private accommodations always. And we haven't been to a hotel. I don't remember when was the last time. But usually people, I think they book hotels because they have something just a simple, have a meeting and go away. So these are not really holiday people. These are just the business people who has to deal with the business and then go away from the town. But the thing that our friends in Sarajevo are doing, and the people who wants to come and visit, they want to have a real holiday, like relaxing. So when we go, for example, to Croatia, anywhere, we just relax, we take it easy, we explore at our own pace, you know.
Yeah, I think that is the best way to do it. Now, in this episode, we're going to try and stimulate you to want to come to Banja Luka, obviously, because it's our nearest city. But we were hosting...
Sorry, another thing I wanted to say, if you're staying, you know, in a private accommodation, you get to learn more from the point of view of people who live there, because you're going to meet the owner. He'll probably tell you what to do, what to see, maybe do some things with you. So that's also a better way to explore and to learn more about culture, you know, from the locals. Not as a tourist, you know, like you go, you get a guide or something like so typical. So you have somebody who lives there and who's passionate about their own country, and they want to show you things and they want you to experience the things.
We had two English people, British people staying with us, Denise and Dai. And what I think was pretty cool from our point of view is that we got to learn about people that wanted to do slow tourism. But, you know, as soon as they got here, you know, they were able to taste local food. The night they came, yes, we hosted them with a meal, which was quite local, on the following day as well. And during their time here, one of the things I think that impressed Dai, because he wanted to make a video about it and he's posted photographs about it, was how to make whether you call it Bosnian or Turkish coffee, it doesn't matter. But we were talking about coffee, and we said, well, would you like to see how it's made? And you made it. And that's not the first person you've made it for. No. But they always seem to be so interested. They want to take photographs. They've got a bundle of questions to ask.
Yes, it's true, because I don't think nobody makes coffee like that anymore in England. I mean, you don't have that coffee culture like we do. So if you explain everything and show them the process, how to make the coffee, that coffee is actually, as Numa used to say, it's a chafe. You sit down, you take your time, you grind the coffee, you talk to the people, you enjoy yourself, you enjoy the company. You don't look at your phone like what most people do. It's a process. Yeah, it's really cool.
And Dai was taken by it. And I remember Chris, who came...
And he learned, actually, because we said, this is your workshop now, how to make Bosnian coffee. And then we said, tomorrow you're going to make us one and see if you pass the test.
Well, did you think he passed the test? Because when he was very proud of it. He said he made the excuse of saying, I don't think it's as strong as yours. But
yeah, he made a good coffee, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to tell you a little bit about our trip to Banja Luka over 2 days with Dai and Denise as an example, like a case study, which sounds very posh, but it's not meant to be like that. The footnote here is, and I know that Denise won't mind me saying this, she had hurt herself and couldn't walk as far as she used to and as fast as she used to. So that was an immediate consideration for us. To adjust the when
visit.
We went there.
Yeah.
So we have our own car, so that wasn't a problem, and it gets us from the village into Banja Luka, which is about 15 to 18 kilometres away. And the first thing we did...
Depending where you park.
But depending on where you park, absolutely. We parked in the car park opposite the Orthodox church in the city centre. Something about Banja Luka for you now. When you come here, parking is free on public holidays and Sundays, but the rest of the time you have to pay for it. So please be aware to look at what zone you're in and how much it costs. There's one note to make about parking. In the 0 zone, which is the center of the center, you can only park for 2 hours. But the rest, I think you can park up to the day, right? The rest is you can park up to the whole day. It doesn't matter. But we'll do a podcast about... That's a zone 1 and zone 2. But zone 0, it's a center, and then you can only park for 2 hours per day. We'll do a podcast about parking in Bosnia and Herzegovina, a separate one, because otherwise it's going to get megally confusing, and about how you can use a mobile app to pay for your parking and all that. But that's for something in the future. Okay, let's go back to visit Banja Luka area in 2 days. Okay, so we decided on 6 things to do, right, over the first day. And the first thing we went to see, because it is in the centre, was the Memorial to the Fallen, which is a memorial for the partisans and other people that were national heroes or people's heroes during the anti-fascist war, which most people call the Second World War. It is interesting to see, because out of all of the former Yugoslavia, there's no city, no town, no village, no location actually, which has so many busts of people's heroes as Banja Luka. Banja Luka has 23. And surprisingly, even Belgrade, the biggest city in the former Yugoslavia, doesn't have one location with that many people. Yeah, we still celebrate the 9th of May, which is the Anti-Fascist Day. And on that day, if you are visiting in Banja Luka, obviously you missed this year, but next year you can see that all the government officials are laying down the, how do you say, wreaths. And they have a little memory speech and little thing. Yeah, ceremony. Ceremony, yes. I think this year... And it's very easy to find. It's just across the Hotel Bosna. And Hotel Bosna is very easy to find in Banja Luka. So it's just across Hotel Bosna or the main church. The main church. I think this year might have been the last that we're going to see any of the remaining people that were in that struggle who are still alive. I mean, there are over 100 at the moment. And so we were able to do that, and Denise was able to walk the short distance just across the main road through Banja Luka to see the Banski Dvor, which is a really beautiful Austro-Hungarian building. It was the offices of the last Austrian Duke, the Ban. So it was an administrative centre, and now it's a cultural centre. But even back in 1959, Quincy Jones and Dizzy Gillespie and other big band members, you know, the sort of music that Glenn Miller would have played decades and decades and decades ago, they played there, which really shook me when I first came to Banja Luka. Somebody said there's the Quincy Jones Jazz Festival, and I thought, why would Quincy Jones be associated with a jazz festival? Well, he played here, and actually he created a piece of music for him and his orchestra, and it's called Banja Luka.
Okay, and then just the opposite, the Banski Dvor, you have like a twin building, which looks exactly the same, and that's a Banja Luka Hall.
Yep.
Town.
The town hall, the municipality
The
building.
town hall, the municipality building, yes.
Now, what is special about the municipality building, that's where you go, right, and there's a sign. I'll put a picture of it in the show notes to this. And there are two replica old-timer cars. They remind me a lot of the T Model Ford car from years and years and years ago when the first cars came out. However, they do sit a driver and 5 people on 3 benches. The first bench is where the driver is. It's an electric car, which absolutely surprised me.
Yes, no sound whatsoever.
No, and it goes for 20 minutes. It costs, at the moment, as we record this podcast, it's 25 marks, right?
Yes.
12.5 euros.
For 4 people, but you can book, I think, the whole car just for yourself for 30 marks.
Yeah.
I think the prices are very good.
They're very, very, very competitive. But it's only a 20-minute ride through Banja Luka. But I thought it was super because you go through some of the streets, you get to see
medieval Banja Luka.
Medieval Banja Luka, you can see the castle, you drive past the mosque. And I thought they were just going to stay on that side of the river. So I was pleasantly surprised when it went across the city bridge into Maidan, so people can see a different style of building.
Mm-hmm.
And that was good. And when he said 20 minutes, I thought, well, we're not going to see much in 20 minutes. But I thought it was a really, really worthwhile thing, and I would highly recommend visitors to see that. What do you think about it?
Yeah, it is very relaxing, and especially in our case, because Denise couldn't walk because she has this injury, so it was really, really good as well. And you can see like all the most important buildings in Banja Luka through this tour.
The one thing though that
but the old style building, like
the one thing though that did disappoint me, to be honest with you, is I think they could have had, you know, like when they knew that we were all English speakers, they could have had a bit of an audio tour.
Yes,
you know,
they
to
don't
say on
have,
the left is this and on the right is that.
Yes, they don't have an audio tour. He just played some nice music.
Yeah. So I think if anybody's listening from the Banja Luka municipality,
they could improve by having a little audio.
Yeah, in different
tour.
languages, like German, French, English, or whatever.
But even only in the English, like almost everyone speaks English today, so it would be very, very good.
Yeah.
To have a little tour like this is Castel, this is this, this is that. They did not have that. So you have to guess yourself what is what.
Maybe that's a good idea that we should do audio tours.
Yeah.
There you go. When we stopped, when we came back to the start point, Denise immediately...
After the
retro tour, Denise went, oh, that smell, which was the cue for us to go and have something quintessential Banja Luka. And just opposite, almost opposite anyway, from where that retro tour starts, is a restaurant called
Kod Muja.
Kod Muja, which means?
Which means Kod Muja.
At Muja's.
At Muja's, yes.
Muja is a restaurant owned by Muja at the start that's been in the city for, I don't know, decades, if not nearly 100 years now, I think. But it's where the famous Banja Luka kebab was first created.
Yes. It looked totally different. I don't know if you can find the picture now on Google. Back in the day when I was a kid, it was just like a small little kiosk.
Your dad worked there, didn't he?
Yeah, my dad worked because he helped. He didn't work because he knew the owner. He was a friend with the owner's son. And he worked there, and actually he lost the tip of his finger while making kebab, which is another story.
Yeah. I mean, I always think that the day they were eating kebab, somebody got part of your dad's finger in there.
Yes, and another thing is that I was living in Winnipeg in Canada, and then I met a guy who knew the recipe of the mujas kebab.
Well, he said he knew the recipe.
He said, yes, because he also knew Muja's son Irfo, and he used to make kebab with him, so he knew the recipe, and he opened actually the kebab shop in Winnipeg, and we used to go there and have a first-class kebab.
Was it anything like the kebab that's in Banja
Yeah,
Luka?
it was very good, actually, very good.
A close one, great.
Yeah.
Well, we sat there, we had a beer, and it was really nice. Dai and Denise tried for the first time.
And the Muja is located there are 3 different cevapdjenica or kebab shops, but the one that we went to is located in a center. So when you go do your center tour of the town, then you can, reward yourself and try the Muja kebab.
Very tasty, not too expensive. And they have lots of side dishes that you can try. You can try Ivar, which is like a bell pepper and eggplant paste mix.
Yes.
Kaimak, which is...
some people like having kaimak with their kebab.
Which is a clotted cream, but not a sweet clotted cream, and you can get spicy peppers and everything. So you must try that.
And back in the day, I have to say, we used to have this sindikalna. And sindikalna is just like a lepinja with all the grease from the meat. And that was very cheap. And it's called sindikalna lepinja. I don't know why, but you used people who didn't have money, they just buy the sindikalna, which is like a bread. It's like a lepinja is a pita bread, and it's like dipped in, but this is long time ago, like in 1980s. And just dipped bread in grease of the kebab.
That reminds
and
me.
And some people also have a sindikalna with kaimak, which is like...
clotted cream.
Clotted cream and just a lepinja dipped in a meat, like in a kebab fat.
My grandmother used to collect all what I thought was grease, but all the dripping from the meats, and she'd have a big pot of that, and she used to spread that on bread, without butter, just that on bread. It was called bread and dripping. But I always remember that my mother used to, obviously very pro-me, she used to warm it up. So I used to dip it in that. It used to taste fantastic, but so unhealthy.
I don't think they serve that anymore. That used to be back in the day, because I don't see it on the menu, sindikalna with kaimak or sindikalna without
Okay, enough of food. When we'd finished, we then walked...
Okay, anyways, the point of this is you have to try kebab kod Muje. It's traditional, and it's totally like Banja Luka tradition, so you have to try it.
Yeah, and although people will tell you, you don't need to go there, there's 101 other places you can do it. The reason you go to Muja is because that's where it started.
It all started, yeah.
After lunch then, we were able to take a nice, slow stroll through Gospodska ulica, which is Gentleman's Street. Today, it's a mix...
You need to be dressed up for it.
No, you don't.
Just a kidding.
Today, it's a mix of ancient and modern, old and new, and there are some very nice remaining Austro-Hungarian buildings that you'll see, together with buildings that were put up in the late 1960s, early 1970s. And the reason is, and this is for another podcast, is in 1969, Banja Luka had an earthquake, and most of that street was destroyed. But it's worth going down now. There's, as I say, a variety of buildings that you can see and shops, and it is definitely worth it. And people still do promenade. That's a nice old-fashioned word, isn't it? Promenade.
Promenade, yeah.
In the summer and nice warm days and evenings, the balmy evenings where it's still 23 at about 10 o'clock at night, people still walk up and down there just chatting away. But you have to walk up Gospodska ulica, which is Gentleman's Street. Then we took Dai and Denise to see the Ferhadia Mosque.
Which is not far away from the Gospodska Street, maybe 10 minutes walk or less.
The two main buildings of worship, there are three. There's the Catholic Cathedral, the Orthodox Cathedral, and the Ferhadia.
And they are all within the radius maybe of 3 kilometers, much.
You can walk between them very easily.
Yes.
But Denise went into the mosque. She was quite taken by the restoration work. The mosque was destroyed in the mid-1990s and built again, so it's been built, destroyed and rebuilt, which is a story in itself. But the craftsmanship inside is worth seeing. And this is our top tip, if you arrive at the mosque during the day and the doors should be closed, just walk around to the left of the mosque and you'll see another large building. I think that's where the imam and his family live. I might have that wrong.
Yeah, and this is their administration office.
Their administration office. And there are always people around there. And even if you just make a sign or just speak in your own language, I think everybody will put one and one together and make two, and they'll come along immediately, no stress, and open it up and go inside.
They also would like more people to see and to visit the mosque as well.
They would. And if you're a lady and you don't have anything to cover your head with, do not worry, because they have a box of shawls that you can cover your hair with. But it's worth doing. And we finished off our short walking tour of Banja Luka by...
With driving? No. Yeah.
We went to the back of the mosque to show Dai and Denise the story of Sefikada. It's a love story, and I think we'll leave that for when we do a podcast on legends and myths around the country.
It's more of a legend, I would say.
Yeah. The same as why did the four main areas of Banja Luka get the names that they have. There's a legend behind that. So we finished that. Tamara came just behind the mosque to pick us up, and then we took a short drive out to Novoselja.
Yes.
And there's a restaurant there called Slap. Slap is the word for waterfall.
Yes.
And there's
a small little waterfall on the side.
I would call it a weir, I think, in my language, because there's different types of water. But you can sit next to the River Verbas, and it is quite stunning.
And enjoy homemade coffee, domaća kafa, and you can enjoy the food.
It's a pretty traditional menu.
It's a pretty traditional menu, and it's quite busy actually in the season, and the weather is nice because everyone likes to escape there, because Verbas give you the natural clima or air conditioning. It's nice and it's cooling, and there's always a breeze, and it's really, really nice. It's a little bit outside of the city.
How far is it, do you think? 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, and when you drive, if you drive on the east bank of the river, then you'll drive through some really cute villages with lots of traditionally built old-style Turkish houses. It looks really, really nice.
With the roof, with the 4 sides.
With the 4 pitches, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then we came home. We were quite tired having done that, but it was, for them...
It was very warm that day as well.
Yeah, and for our guests...
Plus 28
And
Celsius.
for our guests... I think like when you do slow tourism, there's so much to talk about and so much to explain, and information overload itself actually can be quite tiring.
Yes.
You need to process that. The second day we went out, we didn't do 2 days back to back. The second day we went out to visit, we decided to only do 2 things that were outside the city, and the places
but still not too far away.
No, we chose 2 places to go. One was
on 2 different sides of the river.
One was the village of Krupa Novobasu, and on the other side, up in the hills, was Ljubački Dolina. We started the day off, though, driving from where we are in the village, down, bypassing Banja Luka, and driving to Krupa Novobasu through the canyon. Now, we've driven that canyon hundreds and hundreds of times. And once again, when you have somebody that doesn't come from here, they all remark about how stunning
it is.
The canyon is.
All the stone and the nature is so beautiful. It looks unreal and very powerful. Like some of the, stones has to be cut through so that the trucks can go through. And you can even, you have to even watch when you drive, because some of the trucks have to go to the second line, and then you have to be careful. But it's really, really amazing. And the Vrba's on the left side when you're driving from Banja Luka to Krupa. And it's quite nice.
It's dramatic.
Dramatic.
Very dramatic.
But in a positive way.
Oh, yeah.
Not in a negative way.
No. And for somebody that's driving down the road and you suddenly realise that why are we slowing down? As you say, it's a truck negotiating some of those overhangs of rock. We arrived in Krupa Nova Basa, which is a small village. There are...
What is so specific about Krupa?
Well, they have the Krupa River is cascading down the hills, and they go through some small flour mills, right? And the mills are obviously powered by water. They're very cute. I don't know how many of them there are.
Traditionally made
by hand. And what I think is so super about it is when people are seeing that, they are still milling flour today. They sell bags of different types of flour.
Yes.
But if you get there on the right day, and we luckily did, some people there take that flour. They then make dough balls out of them. They deep fry them.
Which are called uštipci.
Can you say that again?
Uštipci.
See how she says that once again?
That's the word of the day.
Uštipci.
So when you go to the restaurant, ask for your starter, uštipci with kajmak. Uštipci sa kajmakom.
So they had that, and Dai wasn't too keen on the kajmak, he said, but Denise thought it was really nice to sit on one of the bridges with the water coming underneath. And
so you can try the freshly made uštipci with freshly ground flour, and you can enjoy the scenery.
How much was a portion? You bought it?
The portion was, we are speaking now, May 2023, was 5 marks.
So that's 2.5.
5 marks for 6 pieces.
Yeah, so €2.5. Not expensive at all. We looked at that. The two things that we didn't do, one is that we didn't walk, and I have to say after all these years, we still have to do that, is to walk right up the hill, past the water, along the river, and apparently that's where the source of the river is, and there's something to see there. We've never done that. There is also a log cabin church somewhere in Krupa, which we've yet to find.
Yes, there was a sign, but...
Yeah, we didn't do it.
I think it's further down when you drive on that road. Instead of turning left to the slabs, you go up.
And when we left, we dropped very briefly just to take a sneak peek into the monastery.
We did. Yeah.
It's quite a modern one.
But you can also walk to the monastery from that area where the links are, through the trees, yeah.
So we did that.
Forest.
It was... I always enjoy going there. We flew the drone there and made a video, so if you follow us anywhere on the interwebs, you'll find that video. But we drove back about 5 or 6 kilometres, crossed to the other bank of the river Vrbas, and then up into the hills.
On the road toward the, how do you say, what's the name of the village?
Well, we went on the way to Kneževo and then we
went off. Yes, Kneževo, we went on the way to Kneževo, but then you have to go left.
Now, you'll see lots of brown signs when you're driving around Bosnia-Herzegovina, and those brown signs will, in the local language, tell you where places to see, locations are, but they are also in the English language underneath.
And Cyrillic as well.
And Cyrillic. So what you need to be looking for is the ethno village at Lubačka Dolina. Don't worry about the name of the village, just you'll see a picture and it says ethno village. When you go there, it is the most amazing
scenery,
passion project of somebody from Lubačka Dolina that went to live in Switzerland and came back. And he built
his dream, actually.
He built his dream, his passion. Now, there are many, many, many ethno villages across the whole of Bosnia-Herzegovina, right? But I would say the one that shows the most love and passion,
most authentic way,
is the one in Lubačka Dolina. It does show you the way that local people in the area lived at the turn of the 19th century.
1900.
So there are old buildings that this guy has found. He's scoured Bosnia-Herzegovina to find old buildings. He's bought them. He's moved them and reassembled them in this village. He has a collection of artifacts, tools,
old tools,
clothing,
yes,
everything that is second to none. They have a a chemist there, an apotheker. They have a school.
Barber shop.
They have a barber shop. They have
Church.
everything. Yes, including a log cabin church, which is pretty unique insofar as he had it built just to show people what a wooden Orthodox log cabin church would have looked like during the Ottoman occupation here. But now it's actually been consecrated by the church. It has icons inside the church. And now...
Actually, it's a working church.
It is.
It has been blessed as well.
And people go there for weddings and celebrations.
Christening, yes. And we do have a login church near us here in Slatina.
In Slatina.
Which is also a working church, but that was the original one. Obviously, it was restored, and it's also protected by UNESCO.
So if you're into, specific things to do with Balkan history, and these Orthodox log cabin churches, are very much a part of that. We have one on our doorstep about 5 kilometres away.
How many are there, do you think?
There's 296 all protected in the country. And also there are 870 little mosques which have wooden minarets, which is pretty traditional for this country. So the 290, whatever it is, Orthodox log cabin churches, the 800 or so wooden minareted churches are also joined by a singular Catholic wooden church, but I don't know exactly where that is.
We'll find out.
But we'll find out and tell you about that. Once we'd left the ethno village, we came back once again, very tired from having this experience of being outdoors all day, the information overload. So I think just seeing even those two things in one day, plus the drive through the
and another note for the ethno village is they have a restaurant there, so if you want to take it and go there for a day, you can do so. It's really nice. They have a food, you can order drinks and everything. And but another thing I want to point out is they don't take a card, so you have to have a cash, and you have to also pay the entrance. We didn't pay the entrance because we know the owner, but I'm not sure the price. So you have to have in mind when you go to the ethno village, he wants to keep it ethno, so that's why he refuses to have electronic payments. So you have to have a cash.
But it's really worth
it to have a lunch there as well. Yeah. The food is really lovely.
And also they have a few of the old houses that they've rebuilt available for you to stay in overnight. But we'll talk about that at some time in a future podcast. I think all in all, the 2 days that we spent just seeing 6 to 8 things was sufficient. And when I think about looking at certain tour companies that try to do about 12 things in one day, and yet they say they're slow tourism, they're not really, because that is a rush from place to place to place to place to place. And it's a deluge of information. You stand. I mean, you can talk about the Banski Dvor. We tell our guests about the Banski Dvor, but you could stand there actually for an hour if you really, really, really knew the history.
Yes, and there's a museum as well.
And it
so many things. Yes.
So having had Dai and Denise here and Chris and his daughter a few weeks before that, I think what we've learned is a better understanding of what slow tourism is, and I think it really is what they want to do rather than what we think they should see.
They should see, yeah.
So we've now learned you sit down for an hour, have some meze,
coffee,
sliced meats,
beer.
some beer, and just get to know people. And that first 2 hours, the day, when they arrive, as long as it's not too late, they get to unwind. They tell you exactly what they like and what they don't like. You get a feel from them. So when they say, let's talk tomorrow morning about what to do. We also had
had guests 2 years ago. All they want to do is do rafting, isn't it?
So it's a case of
sitting back. Whatever you want,
And I think that's very important, and that's what we've learned to offer. So slow tourism means different things to different people. So,
exactly.
Yep. So what are we going to do in the next episode so that you'll come back?
We will be talking in the next episode about the wine expert. and she will be talking about wines from Bosnia and Herzegovina. And also wine tours could be something that people have never thought about as far as this country is concerned, because when you talk about wine tours, people usually think about France, Italy, California and places like that. But yeah, you can have a really, really nice, if you are into wines, you can have a really nice wine tours in Bosnia and Herzegovina.
You can come for 10 days. I'm telling you, you can spend every day somewhere else.
Yes, we have a small wineries here, and most of them, they have tours. They do the tours, or they show people. Some of them have restaurants, and you can try the food and the wine together, and you can of course buy some wine from them. So
we'll be talking about wine with Bella. I actually found out what Bella's real name is, her first name, because it's always Bella Dominkovic. Yeah, but she's really called Tamara.
Oh,
there you go. Another one. So I'm going to be talking...
Tamara, but nickname Bella.
So I'm going to be talking to Tamara Dominkovic in the next podcast.
My nickname is Tata, which makes no sense for Tamara. So everyone thinks I'm Alexandra, because usually Alexandras are Tata.
While you're talking about nicknames, you were quite surprised that Dai's real name is...
David.
Because he lived so many years in Wales, and the Welsh name for David is David. And so it's down to Dai. Now, I know you...
As long as nobody calls him Dave, it's fine.
Yeah, well, he calls me Dave. My mother would give him such a hard time for that, because she always insisted that people called me David. Anyway, you did mention
Uštipci and kajmak.
But there must be a much more useful phrase. Last time it was molim vas.
Molim vas.
So today?
Today, let's say thank you.
Okay.
Today would be hvala. So when you order a coffee, and the konobar bring you coffee, by the way, they always bring water as well. You say hvala.
And thank you very much.
Hvala lijepo.
There you go. So it's hvala is today, which is thank you. Hvala lijepo is
hvala lijepo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I think we should say thank you very much for listening. And that's it for this episode. So that's it for this episode. Subscribe to the Travel to Bosnia and Herzegovina podcast and get ready to fall in love with this heart-shaped country. Our podcast is available on all major podcast platforms.
And if you like this podcast, then please do leave us a review or send us an email. The address is in the show notes, as is our WhatsApp number. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.